Welcome to episode 2 of Philosophy is Philosophy through a Creative Perspective. Philosophy is a wider perspective. In episode 1, I spoke about the issues surrounding appearance versus reality in philosophy. Philosophy is an eye-opening journey that leads to one broadening their perspective on the world around them. No longer are you taking things as they appear when you're studying philosophy. No, philosophy empowers you and encourages you to ask questions and investigate the world around you, because relying on your senses alone will often leads to misinformation and misjudgment. On that note, in the midst of the major Black Lives Movement that developed over the past few months all around the world, I remember watching a news channel report on the wrongful arrest of a black man. Unfortunately, a black man being wrongfully arrested is not rare, but this particular case has stuck with me ever since I encountered it. According to the news channel, a black man had been arrested for robbing many convenience stores in America. He had a credible alibi and he was clearly nowhere near the stores that had been robbed, but still they arrested him because they said that they saw him on camera, and the camera surely caught what appeared to be the same black man robbing the stores. Eyewitnesses said they saw him, the camera shows him doing it, but his family and his neighbors report him being at home in a different location the whole time. The police officers go off appearances and possibly prejudice and arrest the black man and detain him without trial. Sometime later, a white teenager comes to the police station and confesses to the same crime and reveals that he wore a realistic theater mask when he was robbing the store. The mask he used just happened to look like the black man's face. The head of the police department on the news channel just shook his head and said something memorable. He said, "You can't even rely on surveillance or eyewitnesses anymore. There always needs to be more evidence." The moral of that story is that we cannot merely trust our senses to truly judge reality. We need to ask more questions. Philosophy in many ways is like using a magnifying glass and inspecting and analyzing closely the details of human belief and human practices that have otherwise gone unexamined. Philosophy encourages people to realize that we shouldn't just take things by face value. We must take a deeper look if we wish to have a closer understanding of reality. To me, in this world, we are only living on the smallest part of a large puzzle piece that belongs to an even wider puzzle, and there is no way for us to easily know the grander, bigger picture that all the puzzle pieces create. This is why philosophy is so interesting and engaging, because we are already limited to our unreliable senses and our own man-made constraints of how to perceive and express information, and so often relying on these human elements lead to the wrong perceptions of the world. Instead of getting lost in the crowd and agreeing automatically to what the world feeds you, philosophy encourages us to strive to have a wider perspective, to have a hunger to learn more about the possibilities of the bigger picture. Once you have the bigger picture for your life, you can make informed decisions about how you live, how you treat others, and how you express what you believe in. In philosophy, there is a theory known as the allegory of the cave, put forward by ancient Greek philosopher Plato concerning human perception. Plato claimed that knowledge gained through the senses is no more than opinion, and that in order to have real knowledge, we must gain it through philosophical reasoning. In his allegory, Plato distinguishes between people who mistake sensory knowledge for the truth and people who really do see the truth. In his allegory, there are a set of prisoners tied to rocks, and their heads are fixed so that they have to look only at a stone wall before them. Behind them is a fire, and between them is a raised walkway where people hold objects and create shadows on the wall before them. The prisoners have been in this position their whole life and believe that the shadows of objects are real. One day, a prisoner escapes, leaves the cave, and realizes there's a wider world and that his idea of reality was wrong all along. He returns to the other prisoners and tells them about the outside world, but they do not believe him and even threaten to kill him if he tries to free them. Everything is a metaphor in this story. The slaves are people who rely on senses to determine truth, and the prisoner who escapes and takes a journey into the broader world is the philosophers who seek knowledge outside of their senses. Philosophy to me is empowering because it opens our eyes, just like the runaway prisoner, and opens our eyes to an extended idea of reality. It reminds us that our truth is just a version of a bigger picture we cannot experience all at once. It encourages us to seek and search deeply for a more comprehensive idea of what is really in our world, and only those who dare to leave their version of reality will grow closer to knowing more about the wider truths that exist. The runaway prisoner is a lot like Neo from The Matrix. Neo, when he decides to take the red pill and plunge into the unknown, learns more about a wider reality he could not have encountered had he stayed amidst the initial reality he grew up knowing. Philosophy is the red pill. It's the red pill that Neo takes that allows him to know and see the truth of the world he lives in. And in the same way, it is philosophy that allows us to broaden our understanding of reality and allows us to discover the realities that hide behind the appearances.